Welcome back to the Dope Stroke podcast. We have the usual crew back to welcome you to a returning episode all about the Ryder Cup. I just want to say, lads, do public holidays, they don't exist then in the United States? Is that where we're at with that? Because the faithful listeners have been contacting me and saying, Trottie, where was last week's episode? Where was the Dope Stroke podcast episode? I was like, well, the boys took a week off, didn't they? Public holidays in the United Kingdom means no Dope Stroke podcast. Public holidays in the United States means, well, go bleep yourself. That's what it means, doesn't it, Trottie? Go bleep yourself on your public holiday.
When you can organise a podcast when there's 3 Americans and 1 Brit, then you can do the opposite. But at this moment, it's me, Daryl, and Lloyd. That's 3 against you. That's 1. You're not winning this one.
Yep, agreed.
What about the Flasher? Is the Flasher not American?
She might come in a bit. So what holiday is it, Trottie?
Labor Day weekend, lads. They celebrate. They have Labor Day weekend when they do the European Ryder Cup picks.
Luke Donald didn't care that it was Labor Day, did he? He's just on his picks now. So what are you doing today? What is Trot household got in store for Labor Day?
I'm going to play golf with my nipper, but he's already said to me he's only doing 9 holes because he wants to go to the skate park. So basically, we're done and dusted. Golf's losing to skateboarding once again. There you go. But that's in store. Anyway, lads, all good. I believe Daryl's the egg is looking very tanned. He's been away shining that thing.
Well, I've tried to bucket hat it all week, but it still seemed to, the sunbeam still managed to penetrate my hat and my ears and my face and everything else. But no, it was a good time. I had a good time away. And that's all I can really say. I saw some epic things. It was cool. Nice beaches along where I was in Lanzarote in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, which was cool. And I saw this thing, right, which is a bit like Utah, where you have those caves and it almost looks like a grid. The rock faces and everything. It was a bit like that in Lanzarote because of the volcanoes over the past several millions of years. And honestly, it was really, really cool. So it's quite interesting to check it out. But at the risk of sounding middle-aged...
A bit like Giant's Causeway type thing.
No. More like, it's like a cave, but it's like a shallow cave. So you can still see the sky, but all around you are like walls of rock, but it looks like layers of paper. All alongside you, and it kind of feels like a roadmap. It's cool. It's really cool. It's really interesting.
I think it was on one of the other podcasts.
I'm far more educated than you, Trottie, so it's more interesting to me than it is to you.
I think one of the other podcasts we were talking about holidays, and you said you wanted to go to the US and Utah. So is that off the list now? Do you not need to go?
I said that to Victoria, my wife. I said, right, we're going to change our plans now. Let's go to Yosemite Park instead. So yeah.
Did you get any cosmetic work done when you were in Lanzarote, or is it not that type of place?
Well, I made some inquiries on the follicles, but it was too expensive because I had too much spare space on my head.
As Bubsy can't get you a discount somewhere. He doesn't need the hair, obviously, but
I had to go
in the cosmetic world.
Yeah, you just got to use this promo code CRyan20. You're off you go.
You should have said, Daryl. You should have said, look, I appreciate I've got a lot of coverage that needs helping, but I've got a mate in San Diego. I can take all the hair off his back.
Yeah.
Back's not big enough to cover that freaking barnet. It is. Right, lads. Off to a cracking start. Lovely to see you. Anyway, we haven't had any Flash episodes yet, so we'll keep going. We're waiting for our faithful assistant to come on here and give us a flash, but she's not coming, which is great. I'll let someone else explain that if they want to dive into it. Let's talk about Ryder Cup picks. I want to start with Team US because obviously you guys will have a lot more to say about Team Europe. And I want to kick this off. Lloyd has kindly put the teams into the chat. So let's go through it just to make sure that everyone is comfortable where we're at. Sam Burns, Patrick Cantlay, Bryson DeChambeau, Harris English, Ben Griffin, Russell Henley, Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele, JJ Spawn, Scotty Scheffler, Justin Thomas, Cameron Young. First comment you made to me, Bubsy, offline, and I am going to go and do a tiny bit of Googling here in a minute, but first comment you made to me was a lot of rookies in that team.
There's 4 rookies.
Do you know what? I'm just going through the list now to see how many there is. Is there 4?
There's 4 rookies in that team, yeah.
That's a lot out of a team of 12.
It's a lot out of a team of 12, but also the guys that are not rookies, not many of them have played many Ryder Cups themselves. So the guys that have played the most Ryder Cups on the US team You've got Scotty Scheffler 3, Justin Thomas 3 times as well, and that's it. Most of the guys have played a couple, some have played one, and obviously we've got the 4 rookies in play as well. So the rookies being JJ Spawn, Russell Henley, Ben Griffin, and Cam Young. Interesting. What do you think, Trottie?
Off the top of your head, do you feel will be the best out of those? I feel Russell Henley. I don't know why. I just think he feels like he's been around a little bit longer. He's obviously had some big wins. He won the Arnold Palmer big event. I just feel like he'll be okay. The other 3, I'm a little bit unsure. I don't really know how they're going to perform, how they're going to handle it. I don't really recall Ben Griffin doing that well in the majors. Obviously, JJ Spawn has won a major, but it's going to be interesting to watch it.
I'm not worried about JJ Spawn at all. At all. Do you know why, Bubsy, actually?
Is there not 5? I've got...
Who's the
5th?
JJ's a rookie, yeah.
I've got... hang on. I've got JJ Spawn, Cameron Young, Ben Griffin, Russell Henley. Is Harris English not a rookie?
No, he played once before. I think he played 2021, I want to say.
Right, so not the last one.
Not the last one, no.
Right, okay.
I've actually got a technique comment here, Bubsy, which is, so this will come straight back at you. JJ Spawn winning the US Open and the movie made down 17 and 18, left arm against like left rib cage, that little cut he hits that's just so pure. I just think to win, I've actually played that golf course. I don't know if I had said that at the time, but it's so difficult. And I've played Bethpage too, actually. Also difficult, but not. I don't think it's as tough as Oakmont. Both difficult. Bottom line is, I think he's just got a move that under the pressure holds up. I think he'll have a good Ryder Cup. And I'm with you on Russell Henley because I think you could pair him with a lot of different people. Ben Griffin, I think, is the same type of player as Russell Henley. I would imagine they've got him in as well, like banter purposes maybe. And again, I'm going to flip straight to you after this, but I look at people they've left out. Maverick McNeely, Brian Harmon, Novak. Brian's fairly like old school, I guess now would be the term. Straight shooter. I really like the guy, but you go down the list and there's a few youngsters in here. He might not be classed as that anymore. Mav is awesome guy, but quite quiet from my interactions with him. And I think that you go down the list and you've got the boy club in Thomas and Morikawa, like they get in because they're boys. And then obviously they're boys with Xander, I guess, and Scotty. So that kind of makes the core with sadly Spieth and Fowler coming out of that. But then Cantlay might fall into that club too. I think Cameron Young almost falls into that club and Sam Burns falls into that club. So I think there's a lot of picking here based on synergy. But let's kick off your response with my take on JJ Spawn and the way he swings the golf club. I think he's very good.
Absolutely. I think, look, I won't lie, when he won the US Open, he was, before that, when he got into the playoff at the Players, he'd not really been on my radar at all until then. Obviously knew his name, but if you'd have asked me about his golf swing, I wouldn't have known what it was like. But he obviously did well at the Players, lost out to Rory. And always when a player does that, goes to the top of the game, I'll always kind of try and find a golf swing online and try and pull it in and have a look at it. So good. Like really, really good. Like not the most... you wouldn't look at him and think he's the perfect build for a golfer. He's not particularly tall, he's not particularly strong, but when you put the golf swing on slow motion, it is up and down the line with a neutral phase, doesn't deviate a lot from what would be classed as the normal neutral. And, when you've got technically a very, very good swing and you've got the ability to hit a little peeler with a driver, there's very little that can go wrong with his golf swing under pressure other than the 6 inches between his ears. And he's kind of demonstrated almost twice this year that he's pretty damn good under pressure. So I'm with you, Trottie. I think swing-wise, he's good enough. I think mentally he's strong enough. So I would look to him to have a good one. The only thing you're not sure about is the dynamic of a Ryder Cup. He's obviously shown it in individual stroke play events, but foursomes, look, it's a whole different ball game. 4-ball is tricky, but foursomes, geez, if you've got a partner who you don't get on with, it's tough. Now, it's obviously Keegan's job to put them in good partners, but I think we'll touch on it later. But I think the Europeans are way stronger in that department because basically it's the same team as last time.
And I want to elaborate on that before we go there, just a deep dive into what you've said there, because you've actually dropped a little nugget on me there, which I've put into some practice myself, and I've used a full swing kit for this as well. Explain neutral face, what you mean by that.
Oh, mate, well, we need to do a podcast on this because, well, yeah, this could not be. Well, let me give you an answer, and then we'll save it for another podcast because this might go against what a lot of people.
We'll get Alice the Flasher and Lloyd to make some notes on this one. Carry on.
Basically, if you think of a golf club at setup, we'll take a 7-iron, right? You put that golf club behind the ball. That club face can pretty much point at your intended target. It can point to the right of it and it can point to the left of it. So we would class that as neutral. He's pointing at your target, open or closed. So you've really got 3 options when it comes to club face. And if you stop a golf swing at any point, whether it be takeaway, halfway back, top of the backswing, halfway down, you've still got those 3 options. You've still got a face which is kind of open or lofted, you've got it closed or strong, or you've got it neutral. It's hard to establish what it is because you haven't got the target line as your reference. But throughout the golf swing, we've got checkpoints where we're able to say, is this club face trending towards open, closed, or neutral? The bit that's difficult to get your head around for a lot of golfers, and I've tried, but they don't like it, is relative to your swing arc, your club face opens by about 90 degrees in the backswing. And it's got to therefore close by 90 degrees in the downswing. So it's never square throughout, but it's got sort of, let's say, positions or references that we would use as coaches to say, is that club in position? Is it out of position? I mean, you look at JJ Spawn, takeaway, top of the backswing, halfway down, the club is basically where you would like it to be.
So when you look at players like Morikawa, whose face can get in what appears to be some different positions, are they keeping it square to the target throughout? No. But are they? Do they have less rotation than everyone else? Yeah.
So I've done videos.
That's what. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've done videos in the past and talked on this topic because my whole premise as a coach is, if this face opens by, let's say, 90 degrees in the backswing, how does it close by 90 degrees? Well, it's the golfer that does it. So these people who say, you turn your body, it squares the face, that's complete rubbish. It doesn't. And then you'll get people saying, well, why don't you keep it square throughout the whole golf swing so you don't have to do anything? And I'll say, that's not possible. And then it's always the DJ does. And I'm like, look, you look at the data, his face opens by some 70 degrees. So he's 20 degrees more closed than most, but he's still open by 70 degrees. He's still got to square it by 70 degrees. But you'll generally find, if you look through, the tour players, as a general rule, you'll see neutral club faces and you'll see strong club faces. You're not going to get that many where the face is weak or open. There'll be the odd one. I mean, someone like back in the day, like a Jose Maria Artharbel, weak grip, weak face, but there's not that many. So anytime I see a student with a slightly quote unquote closed face, I would be really hesitant to call that fault. It's just a
you went into this saying this is a whole new podcast. It totally is, because I think that equipment has changed based on the way we swing it, and the opening of the face in the backswing versus the stronger face, let's call it that, in the backswing that requires more rotation has now become more prominent. And I think that in guys that like the golf swing, myself for sure, trying to swing it differently, you lose some of that rotation, but you don't quite have the body rotation you had as a kid. So that's where you can get into problems. But it's an interesting topic. And to keep it on subject, I think if you look at Fitzpatrick, there's someone who has what would be deemed as like a passive face. So less flip. So the face is held. He was one of the picks. And I guess we'll start talking now about both teams rather than just keeping on the US one. I think that I definitely don't want to park the US one there, but just saying that passive face control under this type of pressure. We've had Tommy Fleetwood just win the FedEx. He's also quite passive through the hitting area for sure. So the face isn't flipping. And I think you put them in cauldrons like this, Victor Hovland, another one, you put them in pressure situations like this, and it's not as reliant on timing. You look at someone like Justin Rose, he'd be more my generation, my type of golf swing. Freaking guy's rock solid down the kosh. So it's possible to park this technique conversation. It's possible to play both ways for sure. But it's just interesting comments. And I think under pressure, these guys that are able to have a passive face of, brace yourselves, are very much able to have control under the pressure.
Absolutely. And look, I do think it's an interesting topic and we probably should do a podcast on it. But what I find really interesting as well, if you look at the guys like a DJ, like a Fitzpatrick, like a Morikawa, we would class those club faces as stronger, which is another way of saying closed. And if you say closed to most golfers, they think draw, hook, and all those guys play the opposite way. And I think there's a lot to dive into there.
Do you know the other thing as well that's also to dive into? Sorry, Dazzler, we've gone off on a tangent here.
Mate, I'm learning, I'm listening.
DJ is on like 12.5 degrees loft, on driver. Fitzpatrick needs a higher lofted one. All these guys that have the stronger face, and when you master it and you turn and compress it and hit it properly, you can give it some more beef for sure. You can get some more ball speed out of it, which getting more ball speed out of a weaker lofted driver face, if you have the same attack angle with less loft, you can generate more energy and more speed. So it's a downside to it, but it keeps the face passive, like I'm saying.
That's it. I mean, like, look, as a coach, and we'll obviously get back to the Ryder Cup, but as a coach, if I get a player and let's say their path is neutral, pretty straight, but they're delivering a club face which is closed by a couple of degrees, and they're just missing target left. It's just starting a little left and curving a little left. I look at that player and say, right, that player needs a club face at impact, which is a little bit more open that compared to where it currently is. So then you go through, well, how many ways are there of opening that club face? Well, you could raise the handle up. You could change the lie angle. You could get the handle more forwards. You can move the ball more back. There's loads of things that you can do. And so what you'll find with most of these players who've got a slightly stronger face, they will have something else in there, which is an opening mechanism. So handle being more forwards is something which would tend to open the face, but it means then they've got to add more loft. So you look at what they do and you take all the measurements and you put it into almost like a formula, and it makes perfect sense. There's a way to explain everything they do.
And bringing this full circle, this is why JJ Spawn hit peel cut down 17 and 18 at Oakmont.
Yeah.
And you can guarantee, and if people have kept up with that, then well done. And you can guarantee that, well, first hole at Bethpage needs peel cut.
And can I just say, since we played in San Diego, and I was there with my weak grip, with my open face, and hit all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, for anyone listening to this on the podcast areas that are not on YouTube, he's holding up a Scotty Scheffler training grip, which Scotty Scheffler training grip. I mean, the best player in the world right now is using a training grip, as is the best online YouTube teacher is holding a training grip on the best podcast with the best peepers and streakers that we've got in the background staff. Darryl, what sort of people are you employing here? I see that Lauren's dropped in at the back there. Alice is no longer with us, by the way. Well done, Trottie. You called Lauren Alice in the excitement. I've upset everybody at Rocket Yard Incorporated. But, that's what we're doing, Dazzler. You got any take on all these passive faces and training grips and US Ryder Cup, sort of the integration before we get on to, bless him, Matt Wallace? I mean, I just want to take a moment to talk about that. And I also want to take a moment of the feeling of getting the band back together in Europe. Obviously, we've got the Højgaard twin to cover. Let's dive into a bit of that stuff.
Yeah, I think I just want to go back slightly to touch on all the rookies in that team from the US side. Obviously, Bradley made 6 picks and 2 of them were rookies. I think what I'm I don't want to say surprised, but I'd be really interested to understand the rationale of his particular picks. But if you brought in somebody like Brian Harman, who was 12th on the rankings anyway, he has played a Ryder Cup before. So, he would have been a logical choice to blend a bit more experience into that team. But, we all know that these guys are employing now a team of statisticians and data analysts and all these kind of guys. And, I'm pretty sure there's some sort of psychometric element that's involved in this as well now to get that blend right in the team. But I also think, looking at the success of the US team over the last few decades, which has been minimal in the Ryder Cup, maybe this is a good opportunity to bring in as much fresh blood as possible to eject a lot of the negative thoughts that can happen and grow within a team over a number of years. So I think that's one point that I kind of wanted to mention.
Can I just dive in there? Do you think if he picks himself, he picks Harman because of the age thing?
Maybe, and I think that he could have picked himself, but I also
100%
appreciate
he
it would have
could.
been a very difficult week for him personally. And I also think that if he did pick himself, he wouldn't pick himself to play in every match. I think
But,
he would
mate,
have been more balanced in his strategy.
you're
But
a
he's
bloke who does it all. You do it all, Daryl. You have holidays,
right.
you miss bank holiday podcasts, you have peepers and streakers on your podcast show that you bring in to work with us. You do it all. So if you can do it all, surely he can do it all.
No, maybe not, because I'm one of very few elite level operators, and only a few people can take the kind of holidays that I go on.
He
Just
needs a Lauren in his life. He needs a Lauren in his life.
He needs a
and
Lauren
then
in his life.
He'd be able
Just-
to do this.
yes or no from each of you. You don't need to explain it. If Team USA has a different captain, does Keegan get picked?
Yes.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Mate, he's
I agree.
awesome. And
He's had a great year.
I do think he's
Yeah.
made the right decision not to pick himself.
I think it was the only decision he could make, bless him.
Yeah.
I think it sucks for him.
Yeah, I think it sucks for him as well, if I'm honest. And I do think it is the only decision he could make, because, if they went on to lose and he picked himself, he would be the fall guy no matter what. At least this way he's mitigated something should they end up losing in the end. But
It goes back to that Zach Johnson conversation that made it on that Netflix show. He should have been picked in the last one.
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
100%.
And I don't think anybody in world golf would actually dispute that, to be honest. But I am interested in the European side, because on balance, when you start to look down those rankings and the guys that have played the Ryder Cup before, there's only one rookie, which is Rasmus Højgaard himself. Obviously, brother played the last one, changing of the guard there in the family. But 11 of the 12 guys have Ryder Cup experience. Some of them vast. Rory McIlroy's played 7. This will be his 8th Ryder Cup appearance. Justin Rose has played 6 times before. Tyrrell Hatton 3. Rahm 3. Fitzpatrick 3. There's a lot of experience as a spine in that team. But with that said, I thought I'd have a little look at what the average world rankings look like. And I've got 2 things to say on this, by the way. So we all know the world rankings is very.
We've covered this in a podcast. The world rankings is a load of bollocks. We've covered this.
It is a load of bollocks. I know, but I'm kind of like trying to semi-highlight even further how dross it is. But when you think about the US average world ranking is 11.3.
Average?
The Europe average world rankings 11.3. Wow. The Europeans are 23.3. Now, I did think about this and I thought, okay, in the US team, you've got one player who plays live golf, so Bryson DeChambeau. So I removed him from a separate list. And then on the European side, I then removed Tyrrell Hatton and John Rahm.
Now, this is why you're the captain. Do you know that? This is why you're keeping.
I can do everything because I can do everything. I'd play. But Bryson DeChambeau, he obviously qualified outright. So did Tyrrell Hatton. So of the live golfers, of which there's 3 playing in the Ryder Cup, 1 US, 2 Europeans, the only one that was a pick was on the European side, and that's John Rahm. So if you take out the live golfers completely, the average world rankings on the US team drops to 10.7. Strong, that is. Mm. And the European team goes to 17.5. And that is predominantly because John Rahm is ranked 80 in the world and Rasmus Højgaard is ranked 52nd. Mm. So actually, if you strip it out even further, you'll find that the teams are actually quite well balanced, but still world ranking wise favors the US team, as it would, because the world rankings is shit and everything's geared towards the PGA Tour. So I thought it was quite an interesting and telling stat. Now, the next telling stat, just to kind of, because I'm loving the data at the moment, and I want to expand a little bit more on the appearances. So the average or the volume of appearances in the US team, I'm talking previous to this one, there have been 16 appearances overall. So obviously Scotty Scheffler's 3 of those 16. Justin Thomas is 3 of those 16. So you got like 10 left. On the European side, it's 32. So they've got almost twice the amount of experience in Ryder Cups, which is the message I want to try and get across. Now, I look at this and I think this is just my view, and I know somebody's mentioned this on a podcast before. It might have been you, Bubs. Actually, now that I think about it, it might have been Trottie. But the New York fan base and the New York atmosphere is going to be hostile. So when I look at the volume of appearances, I think the Europeans, and thinking about Luke Donald's picks, he's gone with maximum experience to mitigate that as much as he possibly can. So on reflection, I think this balances out the Ryder Cup, even though the Europeans have got all that experience. That would be my perception as to how Luke Donald arrived at the majority of his picks. It's also quite helpful that when you look at the Ryder Cup rankings, of those, the 5 of his 6 picks are positioned 7 to 11 on those rankings. And this is where Matt Wallace misses out because he was ranked 12th. I thought Marco Penge, considering he's barely played any PGA Tour events, to be 14th on that listing is actually exceptional as well. He could be a future Ryder Cup if he keeps this kind of level up. He'll obviously be going to the PGA Tour next year as he's qualified now through the European Tour. So yeah, a couple of good mentions there from a Penge, and even an Aaron Rai who was 15th on the rankings. But it's sad to see that Matt Wallace missed out, and watching his emotions yesterday on the 18th green kind of said it all, really. But
Can I
Luke
just
Donald's
say
been a good choice.
about the European team, though? You've quite rightly said it's 11 from last year plus 1 rookie. But when you think of a rookie, you think of someone who is going to turn up to Ryder Cup with no experience of the crowds, the atmosphere, what goes on. Rasmus is not a rookie in that sense because he was there in Rome with his brother, basically walking the golf course. He was there every step of the way. Yeah, he didn't hit any golf shots. He didn't contribute that way, but he experienced a Ryder Cup. He experienced the crowds. And yes, it was a home Ryder Cup, but I don't feel that he is as much of a rookie as some because he's got a pretty good experience for someone who's never played.
Yeah, I actually think this is quite good to note, but what and I'm pretty sure the US does it as well, but the Europeans, they identify future potential Ryder Cup players. And when the Ryder Cup is on, they host them for the tournament week. So those players then get to see, experience, get behind the scenes, see how it all works, so that even if they are a rookie, they have some sort of familiarity with how the tournament works, how the movement of the players works. So they just get a little bit more breadth to their knowledge before they arrive on site. And I think that that's quite a helpful thing. The more experience you can get, the better. It's the same thing in the workplace, right? The more experience you can get, the better prepared you are to make better decisions, better calls on course, be less emotional, because obviously Ryder Cup's an emotional cauldron, but to try and be as rational as you can possibly be while still trying to ride the wave of the crowd. That's a difficult balancing act to get because, we see it in other sports like football, soccer for our US audience. It's a highly emotional game, and you see it when the fans are behind you, the team get elevated. And I think it's the same thing in the Ryder Cup, but you still have to have a level of measuredness about you, about how you approach each shot to make sure you give yourself the best opportunity to win. And I think the Europeans prepare the future players better, from my understanding, from all the things that I've seen behind the scenes, better than how the US do it. But they both obviously try and prepare as best they can for Ryder Cups, 3-4, Ryder Cups down the road.
Listen, Skipper, you've got to take a break here because there's a lot to unpack in the last 10 minutes that you've said there. So you just take a little seat and let me do a bit of talking here because there's a lot. There's a lot now. You know what I mean? You'd be sat there just chilling with your Lanzarote head, and then all of a sudden you drop. We could be on this podcast for another 3 hours now. You and Lauren just press on somewhere else and go and do your flashing.
I'll tell you, if you were a fly on the wall last week, you'd have seen him there lying on his sun lounge, a big grin on his face, going, "Oh, that'd be good on the podcast." Oh, I'll say that.
Yeah.
So this is the first episode he's ever done any research for. He needs to go on holiday every week.
It is.
Everyone who is new to the podcast, this is Daryl Evans. He's now our captain of the podcast. This is the first time. It's been me and Mr. Chris Ryan carrying this ship since we started. He's finally arrived.
Well, you guys are the talent. I just sit behind the scenes 9 times out of 10.
Jesus, average world rank, but flipping stats. And if you take this boy out, you got this going on, and this guy likes 4 T's in his pocket, and he likes 6 in his pocket. Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Give him some credit, Trottie. He does other stuff. He also turns us into cartoons.
Yeah.
Right.
They'll be good when they come.
First off, First off, let's just keep this on the course here. Emotion. I want to talk about that. You said emotion and you turned it into football. You boys wouldn't have seen last night, but Inter Miami lost in a cup game to Seattle in a final. Suarez spat at one of the coaches. I mean,
did he?
The guy's 38 years old now. I mean, whoa, settle down. We don't need to dive into that, but there's a history of stuff with him. Great talent, and with that, sometimes you get the erupting emotion that we've seen there. The bits I want to hit on, and there were lots.
Actually, hang on, Trottie. I want to say something about spitting for a moment. So yesterday, I've gone to a friend's house for a barbecue. So there's 3 families there. And in the garden, so all the guys have got boys. So there's 4 of the boys outside on the grass playing football on the grass. Anyway, in the corner of my eye, I'm watching my son, Milo, and he spits. And I look at him and I go, what are you doing? So I've called him over, kind of giving him a semi-straight. I'm like, what are you doing? You're in somebody's house. What are you spitting on this, wonderful patio for? And he's, I see it all the time when I watch football on the TV. And I'm like, oh, geez, this is a hard battle to have. It's amazing how much kids learn from what they see on the TV, right? And one thing I'll say about the game of golf is I love the fact that you call penalties on yourself. I love the fact that the rules are in that player's hands. And I think it's a great life lesson for kids. And I think it's a great game for kids to be involved in, whether they turn out to be good or not. Although I do see the odd player spitting in golf as well. You rarely see it on camera. But I just wanted to kind of highlight that because it was quite poignant as I was giving my son an absolute rollicking yesterday. And then he tried to justify it because he saw Mo Salah do it on the weekend. So it is what it is. Anyway, I digress.
Even saw Mo doing it because that's like Mo. I would be surprised.
Actually, it wasn't. Was it Mo? No, it was Mo. It was Mo. Yeah, he was because he said, "Well, I don't know if Mo Salah did the spitting, but he said, well, Mo Salah does it when he plays football. Why can't I?" And I'm like, "Well, because you're in somebody's house." So I had to tell him, if you're on a football pitch and you're actually playing proper competitive sport, it's different. If you're in somebody's house, you don't just spit all over their house. But how do you tell that to a 6-year-old boy who's, he's anti-establishment, he defies convention, he loves a challenge, loves a dust-up, just like his mother.
I mean, you're making this a very difficult podcast to stay on subject. Now we've got to talk about mothers and children. That's a tough topic. I don't want to get into that. You could do that.
You shouldn't try. You shouldn't.
And the next thing we've got to talk about is kids' sport and the importance of kids' sport for, I think, the development of people. Never mind kids' sport to win. I'm all for that. You guys know I love all that jazz. But just the development of people and yeah. But that's a whole nother podcast. Mr. Chris Ryan's picked up his grip here, which is great. I'll get back to my 2 points that I took from that whole conversation. One, the emotion, and I want you guys to cover, I think, on the importance of Luke Donald's role here, returning captain, able to maintain a very level head in a tricky situation. He is Europe's Daryl Dennis-Evans. The next, I'm going to go 3 points. The next one, the emotion of the crowd, I'm going to go 4. The emotion of the crowd that he's made all these picks. Not one of them was a rookie that he picked. I want to hit on Matt Wallace again. I don't feel we've given that enough. He showed a lot of emotion in Kronstadt, Switzerland, knowing, I think, that, but honestly, I think if he'd have won that tournament, he still wouldn't have got in. Bless him. I really do think so. Tommy Fleetwood's genius of how he handled the playoffs. I don't know how much you guys saw in the different or same media that I'm seeing, but the way he got the whole of America on his side to win that playoff will be interesting how that turns out in New York for sure. And there was another point which I can't remember, so I'm going to make one up, which is just how many freaking partnerships there are in this. I don't know if it's because I know the Europeans a little better than I do the American team, but honestly, I think that the 3 of us could go out as Daryl as the captain, me as the assistant, Jim Furyk, you as the other assistant, whoever that is, Bubsy. And we just go out and basically say, Dazzler, you do what you want. Loza's going to do a bit of peep show action, and off we go. You know what I mean?
I mean, Luke has
want to. Can one of you explain why Lauren is the streaker, or whatever Lloyd said earlier before we got going? People will be like, "What's Trottie going on about?"
Look, I'll give some context. We jumped on. I think Lauren was meant to be on, but she was late. We won't pull up too much on that. And then I think Lloyd had said Lauren might flash up in the podcast.
That's what
And
he said.
Trottie took that as Lauren might flash during the podcast. But
We're going to get a little bit of extra curriculum from Daryl's team here. I was like, there's got to be a HR violation in there, but I don't work for Rocket Yard Sports, so we're okay.
she's put traffic problems. But no, just a misinterpretation of what Lloyd said. She might flash up, he said.
Okay. We did start early.
Yeah, we did.
We did start early.
But going to what you were talking about there, I think Luke Donald has got a far easier job than Keegan when it comes to pairings, because essentially all that's changed from 2 years ago to this year is you've changed Nikolai to Rasmus. And look, if Nikolai wanted to play, he could probably play and go out as Rasmus because no one would know the difference. So essentially, he's already got his ready-made pairings. It's not as if it's 11 from 2 years ago and we got a thumping. It's 11 from 2 years ago and we won fairly convincingly. So there's far less work to do on the pairings, which I think is obviously a bonus. You look at Keegan; he's got to figure out how these rookies fit in, who they're going to play with, and I think there's a lot of talk about a home Ryder Cup and a New York Ryder Cup and how hostile it's going to be, and it will be hostile for the Europeans. But and we've talked a lot about football, but you look at someone like a Manchester United, Old Trafford, it's a fortress when they're playing well. But if Man United start poorly, they're not at it, they're getting, run over by the other team, they go one down, that crowd can quickly turn against them. And I feel like it will be the same in New York. There'll be a lot of alcohol consumed. There'll be a lot of people there for a good time. They want to go and see the Europeans getting a thumping. If we can get ahead early, I can see that crowd turning. And then you've got 4 rookies who potentially aren't expecting that hostile environment to come back on them. And it's a very, very different outlook on the Ryder Cup in that situation.
Yes. I also think an additional key factor, which it is key, is that when it's wherever the Ryder Cup is, so if it's in the US or in Europe, the home captain has a large or a massive say in how the golf courses are set up. So historically, because of the conditions that we play a lot in Europe, you tend to find that quite a lot of the European players are really strong with long irons. So what they tend to do is they tend to make the courses as long as possible, but also as narrow as possible in Europe. And they also change the speed of the greens to cater more for the European players. So this time around with Keegan Bradley, and I've been to Bethpage, and it is a beast of a course. Some of those guys on that US team hit the ball a country mile. Obviously, both teams hit the ball a long way generally. So it'll be interesting to see what Keegan Bradley does to support his efforts on the golf course setup. Now, it looks like Bub's got some inside intelligence for us. I mean, he's lifted his notepad up, so he must have taken a note from somewhere. He must have had a chat with Keegan himself. So what did you learn, Bubs? Tell us.
Well, I wasn't on a sun lounger in Lanzarote, but I was doing some research. 2025, they have removed hundreds of trees and almost doubled the acreage of the fairways.
Really? So they want to go wide, as wide as possible, so they can hammer the ball as far as they can, get as close to the green, and just be further up the fairway than the Europeans.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to figure out what the main purpose of that was, but I mean, removing trees, doubling the size of the fairways is obviously done based on statistics and who was likely going to be the team at the time when they made those decisions.
I wonder if the rough around the greens will be more dense as well, because if you go back to what was the Ryder Cup that the US thumped the Europeans, not the last
Medina.
one before.
No, they didn't.
No, not Medina. It wasn't a Kiowa. I can't remember what it was now. Better look at this. Anyway, the rough around the greens then, deep bunker drop-offs, really heavy, dense rough, more natural-looking rough around the greens rather than manicured rough. And clearly the US team, they managed to handle that environment a lot better than the Europeans did in that particular Ryder Cup. So it'll be interesting to see if they do the same thing. I remember going to Bethpage, and there's one hole, I can't remember what hole it is, Trottie might remember, but there's a hole, I think it's the 8th or something like that. You can barely even reach the fairway. These guys are hitting the ball a long way, and they're carrying the fairway by like 6-7 yards. It's tight just to reach. So I can see why somebody like a Keegan Bradley would want to widen the fairways and just tell his players, right, you guys just hammer the death out of that golf ball, get down as far as you possibly can. We know you're going to launch the ball high to get the ball, drop and stop towards the pin. You do that. You just play your golf. I'll set the golf course up to suit you. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Whistling Straits it was. Thanks, Lloyd, for chiming in to save the day. But it was the Whistling Straits Ryder Cup where the rough around the greens was very uneven but very thick.
We're probably getting towards the point where we need to make our predictions, but I just want to throw some numbers at you because this surprised me. It's widely regarded that winning an away Ryder Cup is just brutally difficult, right? It just doesn't happen, and that's kind of what we know is true. But actually, if you look at the stats in the last 30 years. 23% are won as away Ryder Cups. So just less than quarter. So you're thinking, okay, so 1 in 4. Okay, so you're thinking, okay, there's a chance. However, if you do the last 30 years for the US, they have not won an away Ryder Cup. So their win percentage of away Ryder Cups is 0%. Europe have won 3 of 7 away Ryder Cups. So their win percentage is 43% of away Ryder Cups. So actually, when
was the last US win away?
I don't know. Lloyd will have to look that up. But you kind of say, look, it's really hard to win an away Ryder Cup, but Europe are winning 43% of the away Ryder Cups. That's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
Because I think what you do when you look at how hard it is to win an away Ryder Cup, you lump everyone together and you're like, well, it's under quarter of under 25%. But when you just look at Europe, they're pretty good.
The last time the US won in
Belfry
Europe.
93, I reckon.
Yeah, it is Belfry 93.
Yeah,
wow.
I was at that freaking Ryder Cup.
There you go.
I got to stay away from these Ryder Cups. I'm bad karma.
Yeah. So, Team Europe have got a pretty good record at away Ryder Cups. So, whether we go through our picks now, but
Colin Montgomery had a fire stick 1 iron at the Belfry 93, by the way.
That's all you remember from it.
Remember that black and red Wilson fire stick 1 iron.
I do. Yeah,
he did it on 10.
John Daly had them as well, didn't he?
Zero.
Yeah, he had a 0 iron. Faldo with the Mizunos, different gravy. I mean, just
that was when.
It's those Bellata balls, high spin, right? So launches a foot off the ground and somehow climbs high.
So much
Faldo
fun,
would have been coming in on the precepts and stuff then, and the Rexstar. Do you remember the
Rexstar Pro model?
Yeah. Maxfly.
Soft.
Yeah,
Maxfly HT joke of a golf ball.
Yeah,
We digress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we going to go through
before we do predictions? The one thing I wanted to ask you boys before we get there: any players that you think will shine from either team, and any that you think will struggle from either team? Sam, we've already got. You said you like Russell Henley. When he was a rookie, you said think he'd do all right.
Yeah, I think as a rookie, I think he'll do pretty well. I think Europe, the person that stands out to me in Europe, just because obviously massive amounts of experience and had a phenomenal year. I just see Rosie just being just a force. I just think he's swinging it so well. Nothing is going to surprise him. He's going to know exactly what to expect. The only thing that could potentially go against him is how many of the players kind of lean on in that week as being the sort of almost the OG Ryder Cup player. But I fancy him just to be really, really good all week, just solid. It's really hard to win.
Do you know what though, mate? I think if you'd have said then, and sorry to interject, but if you'd have said McIlroy, Rahm, Rose, even Hatton, even Fleetwood, I wouldn't have been surprised. You just said, "Oh no, I really." So that's my response to that.
Yeah,
but carry on.
Yeah, I just think Rose had a good year. I just think he's great. So that's the pick from Europe. I think he'll do really well. And then I don't know. I look at US, and I don't know. I don't know. Look, I mean, I probably should have done research. I don't know what Scotty's record is like in Ryder Cups because when it comes down to Ryder Cup, it's too simplistic to go, you're a great player, you'll do well. You look at Tiger, not a great record, didn't particularly do well in team formats. And I just wonder whether Scotty is in that category. I need to look at his data. But I think someone like Cameron Young, being a rookie, I'd be interested to see how he gets on. I think Russell Henley will do well. JJ Spawn, I'm not sure. He feels like, to me, he's quite quiet, quite reserved. I'm not sure whether he's great in team formats. But being brutally honest, there's no one on that US team who jumps out at me who I think is really going to take this thing by the scruff of the neck and really kind of put 3 or 4 points up on the board for Team USA.
Bryson is the guy they're turning
Yeah.
to, for sure.
Yeah, probably you're probably right. He's the one who, massive experience, not going to shrink under the pressure. Maybe he's the one, because I think when you look at these Ryder Cups, you look at that one person who is almost going to, it's not going to carry the team because it's not like football, but you want that person who's going to kind of stand up and be almost the spokesperson for the team and put the points on the board and rally everyone together. And I look at Rose, I just think he's perfect fit for that, and Bryson probably for the US team.
I think Cantley was a weird pick. I know why he's in. He's in partly, I want to say, because he can get under the skin of them, and what he did with the hat, and the caddy is a New Yorker, and I think they're going to be a very fan favorite one. I think you got Morikawa, Scheffler, JJ Spawn, all Californians, so there's your partnership group. I think Morikawa will play with Scheffler one day. I think JJ will come out for the alternate shots and he'll play with whoever plays better out of Morikawa and Scheffler, which I think will be Scheffler. Schauffele. And replace everything I just said there with Schauffele. I think Scheffler is class. So he's going to be your Justin Rose of their team looking at it. I think Sam Burns will do well because he's a good putter. And I think that's what you need in this stuff. So to give the US credit, I think... Is there really a weak link? I think you won't see much maybe of Ben Griffin. I think he'll be held back. And I think to Darrell's point, that's like a future play because he's the one that probably could have been replaced, I think, by Keegan or Cam Young. But I think that JJ, Morikawa, Schauffele and Scheffler are going to need to do well because I think DeChambeau and Cantlay are going to be like the fan ones. And I think Sam Burns might be a sleeper as when we look at the Euro team. I think the name that's not been mentioned that I think is going to be an absolute powerhouse is Sepp Straka, believe it or not. He's won a lot in America.
And twice this year.
And he keeps his head down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kept looking at Rasmus Højgaard's record. I keep going through it on this. And I'm like, he had a good 2024, didn't he? That's how he got in this team.
I don't know, to be honest.
I think he's had an all right this year.
He won in 24. He's been all right, but that's all he's been. Like, he's done well to get in.
He's out and out qualified, though, as opposed to pick. So, fair play to Højgaard. But I do think, I don't really think there's any weaknesses or really standout weaknesses in either team. And to me, it feels like Keegan Bradley's looking at guys like Cam Young, even though he's a rookie, like Bryson DeChambeau, like a Scotty, guys that hit the ball quite a long way, Justin Thomas, and really going to kind of leverage that as part of his spine of that team. Whereas in the European team, I see more leaders. Forget the game for a moment. I just see more... the dressing room is full of leaders. You've already pointed it out, Bubs, when you spoke about Rose. I think Rose is a really important player for this team, not just for what he can do on the course, but what he does in the dressing room. I think is important. Tommy Fleetwood's obviously had a great year, and he's not a spring chicken. He's been around the block. He knows what he's doing. Had a fantastic season, like I say. Very important. Rory McIlroy the same. Shane Lowry the same. John Rahm too. It's a team full of leaders. And I feel like they'll drag the guys who are a little bit less experienced in that team forward with momentum. So I think that this is going to be a very finely balanced Ryder Cup when you take into account leadership, performances on the golf course, skill level, skill attributes, the environment, New York, the fan base. I think on balance, it feels to me like it's going to be tight. It's not going to be a walkover in any direction. And if I was to make some form of a prediction moving into that space right now, I could see this being a draw or very, very close to a draw. I'm struggling to find a strong enough reason to choose who could win this. But I do feel like a draw is very, very possible on balance.
I will say, we've talked about this website before, but I've just tapped into Data Golf. And they've got the Ryder Cup records. They do it very well, to be fair. Fitzy he's played 8 games. He's had 7 losses and 1 win. So he's still going to have a chip on his shoulder. And then if you flip it the other way, if you remember back, which is, I think, one of our sleepers again, McIntyre was not playing well in the last Ryder Cup when they won. And he's had 2 wins, 3 wins. He's had 2 wins and a loss, I think, looking at his Ryder Cup record. 2 wins and a tie. So there's a guy not playing well who got it done, paired up with Rosie. And, you get Fitzy on the other hand, who's probably going in still feeling like he's got a few things to choose. So, to prove, sorry. I think we're getting to the point, I know Bobsy was going to say something there, but we're getting to the point where we've got a call, and I think you tried to go, you're looking for a tie there, Daryl. We're not having a tie.
I know, but it's so hard for me to pick.
A tie is coming to Europe then, so you're picking Europe.
Basically. If you're talking about who's going to take the trophy at the end of the week, it will be the Europeans based off a tie.
Bubsy?
I mean, I am very much in the camp of where Daryl is, really. I can see this being incredibly close. I think the advantages for the US, they set the course up. That's a huge advantage. We haven't touched on it that much. We did a little bit, but the fact that Keegan can set the course up how he wants for his team is a huge advantage. The fact that it's a home crowd is a huge advantage. And the fact that, as Daryl pointed out earlier in the podcast, on paper, the US are a stronger team. Scotty, major champion, JJ, major champion. But then on the other side, I look at Team Europe, who are basically the same team as last time, almost a little bit more settled. They've almost got their pairings sorted from last year. I think they've got some great leaders in there with some great experience. And that kind of leads me towards a very, very balanced Ryder Cup. I do think it is going to come down to the last couple of matches on Sunday. And I just think, and obviously it's going to get accused of being Team Europe and being from Europe, but I just think when it comes down to Sunday and you've got more rookies on the US team, I think Europe will have just enough to get it done, but I think it's going to be incredibly close.
You did well.
What do you think, Trottie?
But Europe win, job done.
So you're going to be walking around with a blue shirt and gold stars on it around California, running along the beach in your Speedos. Is that what your plan is during the Ryder Cup week?
Listen, lads, there's absolutely no chance of me running around the beach in my Speedos. My missus says I'm fatter than ever before, which I thought was really nice of her. That's what true married life is all about. But the point I'll take for you and I'll say is I keep going through this over and over and over again. And whether it's because the 3 names are together, and I've said it in this podcast, 4 names are together: Morikawa, Scheffler, Schauffele, Spawn.
You're struggling with Scheffler and Schauffele?
Yeah, you are.
Struggling, aren't I? All together. But, boys, I just look down this list, and it's like baller after baller. Fitzy needs to have a good one. He does need to get he needs to get a bit of luck and get some confidence in him. But Victor was already creating a love relationship with Ludwig on some interview I passed this morning at 6 a.m. Lowry is just a legend. McIlroy, we know, is up for it. Bobby Mack's playing well. Rosie's playing well. Sepstracker's a beast. Rahm is just... It's done. It's done. Europe. I know it's so hard. I think the leveling factor is New York for sure.
Yeah.
But I just think there's too many good players there. I'd like to see on this US team a Brooks Koepka. He's not on it. I'd like to have seen Brian Harman just shout out for the short people with tall wives. I mean, he would have been... Yeah. I like him.
That's essential.
And I'd have liked to have seen Keegan, to be honest. And they didn't do it. And I'm not really Cam Young, beautiful player. Justin Thomas is not a sure thing, is he? I mean, as great as he is, he's not a sure thing. But look, who am I to say? This is why we love this event. It could go either way. Just keep Luis Suarez away from it.
I just think we need to touch on, because it gets me every 2 years when you got this big spectacle with the whole of the world of golf eyes on it, plus probably some non-golfers. And I think we're at a disadvantage in Europe because the colours are blue and yellow. But the freaking outfits, boys, they are so bad. At least Team USA, blue and red, you can get away with that. But when you've got the choice of yellow and blue, you're never going to look good, are you?
No. I mean, let's be honest. This is a whole other episode just on outfits in the Ryder Cup. The Europeans have the worst taste ever in the world. They've never looked cool, ever. at any point, which is ironic when you think about like Italian fashion and, catwalks in Milan and all this kind of stuff. And we just can never look good ever.
Swedes are pretty
and the Americans look ace. Yeah, Swedes too. I mean, the Americans do look good, I have to say, outfit-wise. But I'd much rather have a trophy in the cabinet than a really nice wardrobe.
I don't know, though. Like, back in the early 90s, Europe rocked a pink. It was one of those, I think it was that 93 one. They had pink with like a khaki pant.
Yeah.
And,
but when they're more like, it was back in the 90s, like navy,
cool.
It was more navy blue, wasn't it? That was a bit like, you get away with a bit of navy. They feel like they've
Navy's
gone like,
better.
they've got like budgy yellow now, and like whatever. I don't know if that's a colour, but it's not.
All the Norwich fans are just devastated listening to this now, probably. I don't know. I'd like to say you got to go back through the archives and find that little pink number for Europe. That's not a bad one. I'm sorry if you're also seeing.
Maybe you're not one to comment though, Trottie. I've seen some of your galactic nights out before, and these streaky trousers and floral shirts and all that kind of dross you used to wear. So maybe you wouldn't qualify. Chris is obviously, or Bubs is no question the fashionista amongst the three of us. I just wear black T-shirts day after day, whereas actually Bubs has some style. So maybe that's a one-man podcast and you just do that on your own.
Well, maybe it's because you're now doing a lot more. You're doing a lot more work with full swings, so now all you do is just wear black.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect. What a brand.
Maybe we should all wear the Ryder Cup outfits, and obviously I'll have to wear an adult, so you boys can probably get away with a kid's large, can't you?
Half the price, mate. Half the price.
I'm going to find myself. I'm just having a look at the European Ryder Cup merch here. You're right. It's not great. It's not great. I'll give you that. The T-shirts look very basic. It's not. It's a lot of. It's death by quarter zip.
Yeah. Well, that's golf.
Does it look? They look woolen or like the?
It's not your legendary cashmeres. Actually there is little cashmere, and it can't be cashmere. It's only $115, but it's in oatmeal, heather oatmeal. I mean, I'm not wearing oatmeal. You know what I mean? Why am I wearing breakfasts? I'm not doing that. Anyway, we shall let the listeners get out there and dive into their favorite Ryder Cup clothing. Or you can obviously get in the comments and give us some feedback on if we kept you through the passive face control position throughout the swing on JJ Sport and you've made it to the end. Congratulations. And you can get down in the comments and tell us what you think about that pink number that I think was worn in 93. That's the outfit I need to dig out. But with Ryder Cup selections, predictions are pretty much done. We're going to be bringing more on this. I know we're not going to try to give it death by Ryder Cup here on the Dope Stroke podcast, but lads, I think we can't leave it there. Any parting words from the boys to let the listeners go with? Think we can wrap up another session?
I think we can wrap up another session, but I think the listeners might be in store for something a little bit different next week.
They certainly are.
But for now, happy Labour Day to any Americans. I'm off to enjoy my public holiday that the European boys just decided they were having last week, and screw us Americans. I should be actually supporting the Americans, really.
Well, I'm back off to Lanzarote, so I'll see you guys next week then.
You have to get those teeth sorted out.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Peace out.
See ya.